A supposed cure to the blight has instead inflicted a curse on Orlais, threatening to run out of control and rampant amongst the people, potentially endangering all of Ferelden with some new blood curse. And our party are right on the edge of disaster, right at ground zero. Hit it. Right, now I'm just going to say from the off, before we get in there, and they tackle their quest, The Wilting Rose, which is me created, the name of that quest, that any similarities to something else are indeed intentional. But what is that something else that I might be paying homage to and doing something interesting with? Well, if you can figure it out, let me know. But if your name is Martin, username Vosseros, you don't, because I let you know already in email. So you don't reveal it. Let them try and figure it out. So, anyway, I'll leave you to think about what's going on. So, our party were left outside of this chantry monastery type thing, and it was a case of this new form of a blood curse that's half the blight running rampant, and they have to be stopped here and now. So they are hanging around checking the graveyard out. So they went round the side of this thing. They found obviously that the front door is completely barred. It's chained up over the front, so they can't get in or out. Obviously, the people have taken the concoction in there, so they don't want to end up dying while trying to fight the forces, or they just replenish and reinforce their forces. And there was a bunch of spikes facing outward as well, and just general barricaded defences type thing going on. No one much about, a few bodies laying here and there. And they were at the side, looking along this big long metal fence, very, very tall, ending in these frightening looking deadly spikes at the top that looked like they could just impale you right through. Sharp, cruelly sharp at the top. And they were staring down through these bars, and it basically goes downhill, a grassy hill, all the way down, and it's night time, as it would always be in situations of undead, of course. And it goes right downhill, 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 into a unnatural, foggy type, misty ground, swirly thing where there are silhouettes able to be seen there in the graveyard proper, shambling around. Lots of somethings are in there, moving, but they can only be seen as silhouettes, and the party are wondering, how do we get down there? Do we really want to go down there? Heck! And, of course, up back where they are standing, alongside the fence, there is a door that goes in, right? A side door, which would be like a servant's entrance or something like that. And someone comes around from the other side of the fence, running up to them. And, of course, they draw their weapons and they say, wait, you stay right there. And he's an Orlesian, and he's not armed, and he's not armoured either. And he just explains to them, look, I'm a member of the Sanguinary Rose. I have come here to be your guide. And they said, oh, well, yeah, suspicious at this. Why do we need a guide? And they said, just to show you the best entrance to go in. It is indeed this one, and I'm to unlock it for you. And, offer whatever assistance you might need. So, he has the keys, and he peered through the hole and reported back that they see no living on the other side, or movement of any kind. When the question was asked, no living, what about dead? You see that moving? I said no. So they open the door and they go in, and they end up going down some steps, which turns into like a corridor type thing. Then it goes down some more steps, and then it comes down to another corridor. And now they're moving very, very silently, and they're all succeeding in stealth tests at this point, because someone is around the corner waiting there. But they don't know that yet, and I've got it all drawn up on a thing, but sort of typical Fog of War style, the end of the corridor, and they don't know what's on it. I've drawn in the fact that the corridor turns, and that there's an indication that it goes on that way, but I haven't popped an enemy model down yet, so they can't see sort of thing necessarily. And they come up to the corner and they're taking a peep, and then it all gets set up, and he goes down and the room gets set up. So then they are told, well, look, yes, you see a guard facing you right across, and to that guard's right is a way into a room, and it's just opening. The door seems to be open, or what have you, and you can't quite tell the contents of that room yet. So they're peeping, and they don't get seen. So Tanador has this strange idea. He decides, and of course, remember, the team have Gabe with them now, so yeah. They decide, well, alright, Tanador decides, I'm going to take my mouse out. Remember the one that I got from one of the Daemon Arcan dungeons that I was investigating? So, which was effectively Steve Jackson's fighting fantasy, the Calicorn room, where there's a mouse found there. He's still got his mouse. So, pulls out his mouse out of his pocket and boop, off you go. Budges it like that to walk around the corner. The guard sort of spots it. But he was trying to use it as a sort of lure on the guard. And the way he sort of pushed the mouse along like that, his back end kind of moved forward out into the corridor section and caught the guard's eye, and he thought, that's unusual movement from the mouse, and he steps forward a bit, and steps forward a bit, and steps forward a bit. And he didn't go all the way to the corner. So then, at this point, they were wondering, what are we going to do? So they then tried using deception and disguise and bluff type test things and all the rest of it, mixed roles and whatever. A case of this is always winging it. You got to let your players suggest things, and you frantically search the focuses list for something that fits the bill, unless they have a suggestion for you, which you can then verify and confirm. They say, yeah, I do a roll for that, and target number, blah, blah, whatever. If you want to give them like a challenge, a general sort of challenge, it tends to be 14. I noticed the target number on a lot of tests, and that's the sort of general target number that it's like the fall back on. Not too hard, not too easy. It's probably the most common one. These deception tests were pretending to, like, the barking of a dog and that sort of thing. It got him to go all the way to the corner at last, at which point Gabe and Tanador jump him, pull him back round, try and silence him, take him down. And did hearing checks for everybody else in the room. All clear so far. Okay. Now then, they pushed their way down the passage and peered in through the opening and still weren't spotted. And inside was a torture room, and there were Iron Maidens, there was cages hanging up, there are stretching racks, there is an oven on the back wall, super heated with torture implements that readily go onto a special shelf that pulls in and out of the oven with side handles that protect you, sort of thing. Yeah, there was a torture master there, as well as his men, which were brigand types. Now the torture master, he was designed as an NPC, and so I'm going to make the stats actually available for him, so you'll be able to see them at the blog. So do pop along and check him out if you are interested. And he was quite a dangerous boss in of himself, but beatable. And sometimes you have to adjust what you think the health should be as well on the fly. sometimes, if you might sort of get into the fight with a team and think, I think they're beating him way too fast. I don't think they're going to have much fun with this kill. He's got a load of other capabilities. It would be nice if they could see some of them. I mean, he is on his own now, so yeah, maybe he should have had that health more, actually. Sometimes you can just go along and say, do you know what, give him more health. Sort of behind your GM screen, just pop it on there, because there's no better time to edit than live, as you see it actually playing out. And that's not to say you should adapt everything, fudge with a pencil, restructure everything. If they're struggling, sort of restructure it so they win, and restructure it so they all the time. But if it's something that you've designed and you really would like to see it have a few goes, and they're just beating it way too easily, and it's got some special skills that you haven't had a chance to have a go at yet, that special stunts that are unique to him and all this kind of thing, all your hard work, you don't want it to go down the pan, do you? Because they're overpowered and they're really good at rolling 5s and 6s all the time. So, and it's a very proc heavy game, remember. That's always doable as an option. And sometimes I have to pull that on a boss fight, but the party is none the wiser as to where fights you're doing it or not doing it or whatever. Because on boss fights, I don't tend to let them see the hit points. On mobs they're fighting, normal adversaries, mooks and what have you types, I would normally just let the party actually keep track of all the health. So I'll say, these have got such and such hit points, and these ones have such and such hit points, and they know that then, and they're tracking the hit points for me right there on the whiteboard next to where the miniature is. Okay, so I'm taking a job off of myself and giving it to them, and awarding them helper GM experience bonus as well for doing it. And it frees my mind up a little bit more so that the cogs can move and do something else. And it's nice to give your players a lot of them are sitting idle waiting for their turn, right? So what do you do during that? Get them actively involved, helping the dynamic of the group and earning a bit of experience while you're at it. And the less sort of like CPU percentage going up in the GM's brain, the better quality, the least likely he is to forget something integral, exciting, another element that, oh gosh, I should have sprung that, shouldn't I? Oh darn, I didn't try that spell combination. They would have enjoyed that, or whatever, Oh gosh, yeah, I meant to use this against the tank because it's actually penetrating, isn't it? You're not that element of confusion and such. They thought, do you know what, we're going to try and pull them out of the room, these guys. So Karak jumps in the doorway and shouts something at them, then runs back out into the hall. They don't follow, they just take up defensive positions in the room. And we see a poor Tal Vashoth on the stretching rack being tortured. And they had some sort of object they were dangling over him, and as it went over him, some energy off of it came off onto him and made his body shudder, and his belly going up and down like that, and like that. But it's not doing any physical damage. It all just seems to be something else. And bear in mind, if the amulet is magical and they're doing some sort of effect on him, what is the thing with the Kunari? The Kunari race. The horned creatures, whatever their race is called. Well, they're vulnerable. They're susceptible, in fact, to magic, and this is a group that tried to devise a cure to the blight. So in attempting to create it, they designed, they designated all tests to be done on Vukunari people, so that, most usually Tal Vashoth, so that people won't come along and sort of question their absence. We have the chance of getting to meet Pete's new character, because he's the Tal Vashoth on the rack. Here we go, Pete's third character, because of course he was Paydar, and Paydar fell at the Battle of Redhold, the Siege of Redhold, even though the party were victorious. And then he was a Phelan, of course, and Phelan fell right at the end of Season 1, in the Baranti Manor, killed by Karak. And then, now, he's Bolheim. Tal Vashoth, warrior. But he's imprisoned at the moment, and of course his starter gear is very, very poor, and so that explains why anyway, because he's a captive, and will just grab whatever he can, which isn't very good, which is heavy leather, and a medium shield, and like a weapon of some sort, and not a lot else. So, yeah. He had it all set up, to try and take over as the group's tank, to fill that place that Amelia left, albeit a very... magically vulnerable tank. The irony being that a Templar is the exact opposite of that, in fact. Polar opposite. The guys, they're in their defensive positions, and the group decided, that's it, they're not going to budge. They're not firing at anything at us, range, so we're just going to have to go in and engage them. So, in they poured, and in they went, and the additional NPCs, well, they went down. They're just there to make up the numbers, to make the boss look a bit more scary. And it was the boss, he's getting going there with his double stabbing, and they tried knocking him down, and he's got the quick reflexes up to, I think it's Journeyman, at least, so that he can flip back up and not lose a half action, get him back up so that he can do his nasty things and all of the elements. He couldn't get an Envenom off, unfortunately, because he was carrying poison. So again, it's another set 2 ability, poison coming in now. So it's just introducing something else. Now a lot of the guys, they're getting to try out some of the new stunts as well. Lethal Blow is of course exceptionally potent and popular, and we are having it so that you can Lethal Blow and Mighty Blow, especially if you're a warrior, of course. Because Lethal Blow is 5, and you can Mighty Blow for like is it 1 or 2? As a warrior or something like that. 1 as a warrior, because 2 is normal, isn't it? And then there's another thing later on, is it in the Berserker tree, where you can Lethal Blow, which is the 2d6 damage, for like 4 stun points instead of 5. So that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because then you could... Oh boy. Okay. Well, anyway, then they did get him down. They weren't really in any danger of dying to him, but it wasn't really intended, okay, this is going to be a room that's going to start killing people. They didn't unstrap the Tal Vashoth to let him help, and they just fought on around him, which I thought was quite funny, because they didn't do that old sort of like, oh, the player will obviously have to fight now, he may battle, so that is why we will go over and unstrap him now. That is why I am doing it, because it is in character. And no, they didn't. They didn't. They just said, I will leave him. Oh, my lot of funny. They're funny bastards. They really are. Yes. Anyway, they got him down, and he dropped a bit of loot, a couple of blues. Dual daggers, Spite and Sorrow they be called, and they do an extra damage more than normal daggers would do. And also, when they are heated with fire, they have a magical ability that kicks in when heated with fire. You can stick them in a campfire if you like. And as soon as they heat, they do 3 penetration across the board. Now, I thought about this, and they do the thing of like half. You can either pierce armor, which is half armor, or just penetrating, which is all armor. But I thought, why do you have to be constantly confined to that? Why couldn't you find a magical weapon that has like this much power in it? So it's like you can have like this much or this much. Well, what about like that much? The in-betweeny sort of thing. There'd be levels of like energy within materials, wouldn't there? It wouldn't just always be, it's like all of it or exactly half of it every time. So I thought, okay, what would this heated sort of punchy dagger be able to go through? Definitely split through light armor. So I thought 3 penetration. So an actual fixed penetration element. So it gets worse the more you try and use it against tanks. To me, that was an interesting concept, and the fact that you had to try and find a way to heat it first to even give it that sub-piercing quality. Well, anyway, and of course it should also stack with piercing, I should imagine, anyway, so somehow. Although that didn't come up for how we do that if they tried to stunt that. So I'll have to figure that out how to have done that. But anyway, Gabe took them, but he's more of a rapier type guy anyway, so he's not really the daggers type. But he took them just in case. Adds to his collection, I guess, or whatever. He's thinking about it. If he was that type of rogue, though, it would have been nice, wouldn't it? Oh, Gabe was doing some great manoeuvres in there, really getting used to his backstabs. He's quite a sort of funny character, Gabe. He's got like almost X-Men Gambit quality to him, you know? A little bit of a rogue on the side of it all. But, you know, he's a friend of the team as far as they're aware. Friend of Amelia. Yes, anyway, they get him down and they free the Talvashoth and he joins them. And now he's too shaken up to speak at the moment. The processes that he's gone through, he's a little bit jittery still, and he's just stares ahead and he's just fierce and, you know, he just moves on wanting to kill everyone in there. But of course now these torture people, they've stayed behind. They're the mad ones because they're supposed to have evacuated. And the Sanguinary Rose's order was evacuate the section. Don't give them any more reinforcements. All right. Buy yourselves in. We're calling for backup. All right. And this torture master and his men ignored that. So they even before they engaged him, they did even ask their guide and said, "Look, what's the status on this guy? You know, is he killable? Is he going to cause us trouble?" And he said, "Yeah, he's gone rogue on us because, you know, he's ignoring orders from the top. So yeah, he's just gone mad in there." So yeah, they took him out and they move on upwards out to an outside section, the graveyard proper. Oh gosh, yeah, gravestones down the right, gravestones down the left, creepy old path, and I draw all this up suddenly in this forlorn misty encounter, and I'm just grabbing like Pete's vampire count models. I'm just grabbing like zombie things and stuff, and I'm just sticking stuff down all over. And there's a crypt right at the far end of the path, and they said, "Oh God, it's like a gauntlet." You know, it was quite a long way for them to be able to punt it. Really, I mean, it would have took quite a few turns for them to just go for it. And I put a lot of models down, a lot of devouring corpses, hunger demons, of course. Now, usually they've got 30 health, so the trick here was to say, right, swarm the players in a manner that you wouldn't normally swarm them, with numbers that are frightening in their mass of encroaching. However, manipulate the health bars, so instead of their 30 each, they're approximately 10 health each, which means most of the time you will be one-shotting them, and they don't wear armour. They are corpses that have risen. Now, while they don't have the disease, some terrible blood magic mage monstrous undead thing in there has seized control of the opportunity and taken using that power of the undead, using it as a foci, and manipulating the entirety of the graveyard. And the guide's coming along and he's saying, "I cannot believe this, you know. Every single one of these graves is disturbed, except, oh, I hope that one is not." And he runs quickly, almost ignoring the dead closing in on him. And the spirits, the shades, the spectral shades moving in as well from the shadows. And, you know, the guys can see this. And so and they're 10 health as well. But, of course, they have the intangibility problem of, like, mundane weapons not being able to hit them so easy, and you having to use the magic instead of strength stat, and it all gets... And that's if you proc the stunts, otherwise you're just swinging for to no avail. And of course magic works, but yeah, he ran and quickly checked the tomb and said, "Oh, there is one tomb here, the most important one, that still is not disturbed. You know, thank the Maker for that at least." And they said, "Oh, who?" And he said, Why, Master Var Hewitt himself. Now, of course, they went to Var Hewitt Manor before to pick up the quest for all of this, and yeah, the leader of their order, like 150 years ago, the greatest ever, the legend of the Sanguinary Rose. He said, "Look, even in death, even with this, his grave is not disturbed. His power has shone through." And then he realises the dead are all closing in on him. He freaks out and runs the other way, all kind of like Shaggy mode. Yikes! He didn't do that. He didn't do that. But he ran back to the party, and it was a near scrape as zombies are stumbling and going for him. And then the team takes their formation, and the melee guys go forward and start to push up. And I try to work out, how many of these undead are going to spot that the guys are here at the moment. So I used general sort of range thing, and some of them are just wandering about generally. And there's a lot of models on the field at this point. I mean, this is a kind of encounter, to be honest with you, where using minis is a lot better than imagination. Because if you've got proper little zombies and little spectral things, and you're popping them down all over a little drawn-up graveyard, those guys will be excited looking at that, because every turn the things are getting closer, and you can visually see it. It is like watching a horror movie. The benefits of that. Yet they are still role playing with it, and something like that was like where is there a gap in the line? Is there a gap between this zombie and that zombie? Can be integral? Can you make a break for it to get to your fallen ally on the other side and things like that? And as we will see coming up, that became a very big issue in this fight. And if we hadn't been using miniatures, we wouldn't have had any exactitude of physical arrangement to actually determine, my line of sight is blocked, or I can't quite get away from this position, or I can't go from A to B, I need to kill these first. And that kind of thing is very oppressive, and that's what you want. The idea of like zombies, they shouldn't just be, they're an enemy type, The idea of them being like all one organism, really. You haven't killed any until you've killed them all, pretty much. So there they all are, coming at them, and Karak was staying at the back, and Blacktail and Mabari's running back and forth, running interference, trying to keep them off of Karak. Everyone else is pushing forward, doing a pretty good job, but it's a fair fight. They're taking the odd few scratches here and there, but it's not too bad. And they do, interestingly enough, the Shades and the Devouring Corpses both share similar sorts of abilities to be able to devour soul essence, as it were, scream or suck it in or some sort of thing like that. So they were both doing that in different ways, either from procs or from whatever ability attack thing that they do, just from attacking and it being like that, penetrating damage as well. So it was quite nasty. And Bolheim, Pete's new character, he got separated in a place where he's surrounded by undead. And Gabe, he's surrounded by undead and fighting on all sides. And Tanador is surrounded by undead and fighting on all sides and swinging this way, and another zombie takes its place. And literally the models are there to represent it. And it's not that I don't even have to build the tension and say, there's a zombie takes his place, because I literally push that model up. And you actually see the player sinking, watching it, and I'm just looking at him with my face with evil malign, and I'm pushing. Guards at the back with firing down. Anyway, I've also worked out how many rounds their reinforcements are going to come in, digging up from the ground. Really cool. And then, because it's a really long stretch of graveyard, I wanted to work out, where are these reinforcements going to come from? It wouldn't be very realistic if they only came out of graves all at the far end, so it takes them ages to get to the players, like some of the shambling creatures are. So instead, I thought, right, I'm going to roughly designate 6 places along the flank here, okay? And then I'm going to get a die, and I'm going to roll it, and if it comes out as a 1, then it's up near the end or all the way away from them. And then all the numbers are incrementally closer and closer and closer to the beginning, with 6 being obviously closest to Karak, the mage, who's trying to stand at the back, doing his wanding thing that he's doing to try and save mana, because a really heavy, intensive fight like this, he definitely wants to be able to keep mana for heals. And boy, did he have to be putting those heals out here and there, trying to almost do predictive healing to top people up. And of course, we're homebrewing a role that he can use his spell power as the range for the spell. So that's always prone to change as he gets more powerful. But there are still limits to it, as we'll see. And then it's pressing on and pressing on and pressing into them until Tanador had taken too many shots and Karak's still tied down and he's not going to be able to make it in time, and Tanador goes down. It is a killing blow from the undead. He's surrounded. However, Tanador is the elect of the sky and cannot be one-shot anymore by a foe. Oh, Tanador, you lucky fellow, you. So, he's lying there, unconscious for like 6-7 minutes or whatever, with 1 health. 1 HP, essentially. Problem is, they can still coup de grace you. And then you really are dead, whether you're the elect of the sky, the ground, the heavens, or the cosmos. And as such, I decided, because they're undead, and they're instinctive, and they're still live targets, and they might think he's dead, and there's still actual live and kicking food, I'm going to require them to need a willpower self-discipline test to actually sink down and start eating of him yet, because some of them, the guys are making a lot of sounds and there's a lot of fighting going on, and so you'd be attracted to what's going on, in your brain dead state, rather than what's not going on and what you can just chew on. For now, perhaps, you see. And so I decided, you know what? We're going to have it so that just in this one case, and it's the first time we've had to use this elect of the sky thing anyway, we'll have it so because they're zombies, willpower, self-discipline, target number 20. I like doing that, I don't like always going along with this sort of, it's got to be 19 or 21. Choose a 20. Choose whatever feels right. And you know what? It was funny, because 20 is very hard to get. And so we roll for one undead and he comes up 19. And we're like, whoa. And this is basically whether the undead's going to kill him, because you get a free go now and the undeads go. And so he wanders off instead. Loses interest, tries to go for the live sounding ones. Yeah, the ones that are making all the racket with their clashing steel on skull bits. And another one rolls. It's 19. And he wanders off. And at this point, I'm saying to Jez, Jesus, do you know how lucky you are? Can you believe this? I think it was maybe 3. And I think the next one rolled low or something. So they left him be. But that was close. And there was a bit of a problem, because Bolheim went down. Now Tanador decided, he's still unconscious-like, but Bolheim had gone down a bit after this. And of course he's wearing much less armour. Oh dear. So, Tanador, when he finally does come to, and Bolheim's bleeding out with rounds running out, and Karak's being swarmed, by the way, and some of them are rolling 6s to come in on his position, and they're really getting on him, and Blacktail's trying to come back and free him up, but still he's trying to fight his way out, and all the time he's finding his way out, he's using his major action spells, and he can't get over there to provide heals to the guys. And Tanador realises that, and he's on 1 hit point. So one more smack, and it could be quite bad situation. And he decides, Gabe is now surrounded on 4 sides by things. I'm going to get up and try and get them off him a bit. So he runs in and starts slashing them in the back, and pulls one shot off, and then pulls off like a lightning attack, and he literally takes out one and then takes out another, which is great by putting them into this sort of like 10 hit points each thing, because they can really, really do some evocative attacks. And I go in and lunge one and cut his head off, and then I swing high with the other and crack him to the rib cage, and flies up into the air, and he hits the ground, crunches, and his head cracks and rolls off, and whatever. You can have fun with undead. Yay! And anyway, he saved Gabe there, and Gabe's fighting on the last of his strength as well, and Karak's saying, "Oh God, I can't get a heal to anyone. I'm bogged down. I can't reach Bullheim even. He's too far away, out of my range to be able to get a heal over to him. So now what am I going to do?" Well, Bullheim is in a dying mode. He's running out of turns for someone to be able to get over and heal him. And Karak was saying, I just need a bit more time. Damn, come on, Blacktail, help me out, sort of thing. I need to get to him before we lose him. Now, that poor Tal-Vashoth, who's suffered so. And, of course, the problem was the Tal-Vashoth was surrounded by zombies as well. 4 of them. And I had to do the similar willpower test to decide if they're going to, coup de grace, start munching. So I roll. 19. Needs a 20, remember. And at this point, I'm laughing. I'm laughing hysterically. So I'm saying, it's happening again! And I roll. 19. And I'm like, oh. And I roll, and it's low. And they, oh my gosh. Right. But can you survive 4? And I roll. And I leave the dice where they were, and the guys hear them rattle, and I haven't touched them. And it's a time like that I honestly feel I need to grab the GM screen and pull it straight up, right, out of the way, so I haven't touched the dice, and just let them look at the buggers. And I rolled 3 6s. Now, you'll also know that I'm one of these GMs who actually use the dice rolls pretty much most of the time. I know he's a new character. I know he's only just come in. But he ran forward and left himself tactically open to be surrounded by 4 of these monsters at once. He left himself out of range from healing. He was very upset with the undead, obviously, and he got munched on. Bullheim got munched on. Pete's lost another character. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Of course, he wasn't wearing very good armour. He was only wearing starter warrior armour and such. So, we'll say it's probably a bit of that as well. Oh no. Oh gosh, what's he going to roll next? So, big news, guys, the 3rd party death ever. A few rounds later, he got back up, because he'd been infected with it too, and then they had to fight him as well as an undead. So that was fun. So, it was right down to the limits. I mean, the guys were just on practically no health left. And it was in and out. And they were like, oh God, quick, let's get a first aid on him, drag him out of the melee and try and do what you can. I'll try and patch you up, buddy. And it's right on the edge of saying, I'm not going to make it. We're not going to make it. We're going to wipe. We're going to be done for. They're losing their spirits. Their morale is failing on them. But this was a great encounter for them. I mean, at one point, one of them was even saying, oh my God, you've made this too hard for us, Rob. And you could hear the panic in his voice. He's having a go at me, And I could listen to that and get sort of like, take it personally. Or I can do the other thing and look at that with quite malign glee and just sort of think, you're scared. Scared is good. Very near the edge, and they just about overcome it. Bullheim made a great sacrifice Let's just say he made a great sacrifice so the others could win. Well, he did. I mean, he kept 4 of them at bay, furthest towards the crypt, away from the group. He was the frontmost fighter, pretty much. Well, damn him and Tanador. And Tanador went down as well, so it just shows you what proximity does for you in this case, doesn't it? In a swarm. But it was just so magical to run, and the guys were really breathing heavy after, and they were like, whew, oh man, I can't believe it. And yeah, the guy was shook up by it as well. And the struggle, that is what makes them feel more appreciative afterwards. And of course, someone has died, and they did struggle hard, so I give them the full 300 experience for the encounter, which is another great reminder about how the experience system in this works per encounter. So then, they go down into the crypt, and they say, I believe, this is probably where it all is, everything else is quiet. We've got to check it out. And they don't meet anything on the way until the very, very bottom. In the room there is an evil blood mage thing with its nasty entropic spells and other stuff. And it begins. And it enters the fight, might I just say, with an arcane shield and rock armour on. And it knew they were coming, you see. By the way, Midgard bestiary, necrophagus ghoul. But added a little something else in there, as you'll see. So, they fight him. And I put a few alcoves all the way around this crypt room, with ancestors on or whatever. Yeah. And then, bearing in mind that the necrophagus ghoul has a major action ability of raising dead. And he's surrounded by dead things in those alcoves, lying down, Skyrim style. And they all get up at once. What was it, 11 or so? Undead, pouring on them. Oh dear. And they were surrounding Karak, beating on him the same as before, but this way at the doorway, of course. So, showing, standing at the back doesn't help you when new enemies just pour in, and some go this way and some come this way at the melee guys and cut them off. So really it is challenging also, expectations of formation, where they think, send the melee to the front and the range to the back. We'll be fine. Because, battle is an uncertain thing. Things will crawl in over walls and flank you, and all sorts will go on. So you have to have your awareness sighted on. And obviously, as the difficulty has gone up now, we're in tier 2. I can quite easily, ramp the encounter up. And sometimes the difficulty of an encounter isn't just in the stats, in saying, these have more health, or these do more damage, or he's got a better dexterity, he's got better defense to hit or whatever. Sometimes it's just about the way you have them behave, their artificial intelligence, effectively, the way you have them spawn. How do the reinforcements act? How tactical do they behave? How well do they collaborate as classes together? How well are they trained? Should they collaborate? In the case of undead, no, they're just there to buy the boss more time, really, and to surround people and make them feel it's all over. But of course, if they kill the boss, all the undead will banish with him. And I gave him another extra little attack because they were killing him too soon. Do you remember that thing I said about being able to wing something? So I did wing something. They'd had a go at a couple of the undead, but they were mostly ignoring them. And I thought, well, he'd summoned them, and he controls these guys. He wasn't able to get his paralyze effect off on anyone, by the way, to be able to control them like puppets on a string. That was unfortunate. It just wasn't working out on the dice. So what I did instead, I came up with another idea, which was, okay, let's take this thing and let him do a snap action to de-summon them all. Basically, kill all the life force energy out of all the remaining ones at once, because they were shooting through his health way too quick to make it an interesting fight. And just to keep him hanging in there a bit longer, I said right. Suddenly, with a sweep of his hand, all of the undead have just fallen and turned to dust and swirled up around the room, and he seems to be channeling some energy out of the swirl into him, and of course he's feeding on that. So I've got him feeding only on their constitution scores, which is 2 apiece. So it's not a lot of healing, as it were. But, it's dark arts healing style, rather than, I cast a heal spell even though I'm an evil undead, which would be not very nice and fair, would it? So then he goes down, and of course they're already really, really weak. So it's a case of they didn't want to have to face anything too powerful, even though they did have a rest and have a bit of a first aid, and get Karak to give him a few top-up heals and things like this. And his mana's going, pulling down, and he's having to conserve it by doing arcane wanding strikes instead. And so he's down, and they just got through this one by the skin of their teeth. Or have they? Something's coming. Something's due. There's one last threat still for them to fight. Oh dear. And they're not looking too good on health right now, with a man down already. Do I care? No, of course I don't. They could run away if they want. They should run away if they want. Why don't they run away? I'd make it so they can run away. I'd allow them to try and run away. They really should run away. What's coming up next session, because the session ended there, down in the crypt. Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? They've been stuck down there for a week. I wonder what's going to happen to them. But anyway, will Pete make another character and lose it in session 1? Probably. This is Dragon Age. So we'll keep you updated on who and what all of this is going to be. And there'll be a special surprise waiting for that new character as well, which will pertain interestingly to one of the group, if it works out being the one we think it's going to be. But until next time, I'll leave you stranded in the crypt with them. Try not to get too curled. And I'll see you at the graveyard table. Okay, he's still here. This is embarrassing because I did the whole thing, didn't you? It's where you meant to go because I did that. It's like a crypt. It's supposed to still here. Don't know what switch off with this finger. That's what I'll do.